Conway, Cook, Cotto, Davis, De La Torre, De Leon, DeVore, Emerson, Ing, Evans,
Numbers are late again.
Fior, Fletcher, Fong, Fuentes, Fuller, Furutani, Gaines, Galgiani, Garrick, Gilmore, Hagman, Hall, Harkey, Hayashi, Hernandez, Hill, Huber, Huffman, Jeffries, Jones, Knight, Liu, Logue, Lowenthal, Ma, Mendoza, Miller, Monning, Nava, Nestande, Nilo, Nilsson, Norby, V. Manuel Perez, Portantino, Ruskin, Solis, Saldana, Silva, Skinner, Smythe, Solorio, Strickland, Swanson, Torlixon, Torres, Tarico, Tran, Valines, Yamada, Mr. Speaker.
We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask our Assembly Chaplain, Father Constantine Papademos, to offer the day's prayer.
Let us pray. Lord, the psalmist said, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Lord, our help comes from you, and our joy is fulfilled when our hearts are united with your will. Help us to come closer to you and fill our hearts with joy and gladness always. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to continue standing and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Knight as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Knight. You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber of Sacramento, Thursday, May 13, 2010. The Assembly met at 9 a.m. Honorable Fiona Moss, Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly, presiding.
Mr. Davis moves and Mr. Garrick seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the Governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Housekeeping motions. Without objection, I request unanimous consent to allow Assembly Members Feuer to have a guest and photographer on the floor today. Without objection, I request unanimous consent to withdraw AB 1667 Swanson from the Appropriations Committee and order it to the first day consent calendar. Without objection, I request, at the request of the author, I'm giving a one-day notice of intent to remove file item A14 SB 202 Harmon from the inactive file. Moving to guest introductions. Ms. Fuller. Ms. Fuller, do you have guests you'd like to recognize today?
Yes, it is my distinct honor, if they would like to stand in the gallery, to introduce the Republic of Philippines Women's National Soccer Team. The age is 16 to 19. The team is here at the request of the U.S. and Philippine Soccer Federations and will be in California till the 22nd. They are part of an official athletic, cultural, and technology exchange program. This is the first year. The team will be training with the U.S. coaches, including a visit to the Olympic Training Center in San Diego, and they will be training with the Elite Soccer Club from Bakersfield and UC San Diego and CSU Bakersfield. Please give them a warm welcome. Thank you. And my good friend, David Huck.
Members, if you would direct your attention to the back of the chamber, we have a very special international visitor with us today. We are joined by Chris DeCure, Australian Consul General. He is visiting Sacramento to participate in the annual California Consular Corps luncheon, as well as to conduct discussions of bilateral concerns, including water resources conservation and wildlife fire protection. Please help welcome Consul General DeCure. And Mr. Feuer also has a guest with him. Mr. Feuer, would you like to introduce your guest?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce my son Aaron, who's here from college to join us today. Yeah.
Okay, members, we are moving to business on the daily file. Second reading. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2163 with amendments 2671 with amendments 2683 with amendments 2703 with amendments 1671 with amendments 2656 with amendments 1709, 1944, 2036, 2151, 2213, 2394, 2404, 2510, 2541, 2629, 2717, 2762, 2458, 2490, 2572, 2667, 2698, 2747, 2792, 1749, 1753, 1817, 1913, 1918, 1934, 1963, 1987, 2033, 2086, 2090. 2221, 2238, 2256, 2296, 2325, 2340, and Senate Bill 838.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. We're going to start with the Assembly third reading, members. File items 51 through 59 pass and retain. File item 60, AB 2266. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2266 by Assemblymember Bradford, an act relating to school district records.
Mr. Bradford.
Madam Speaker, members, AB 2266 allows school districts to utilize existing technology and save general fund money spent for storage costs as a result of requirements to maintain paper records up to 8 years. This bill provides a safe, secure, and inexpensive alternative to maintaining original documents that also protects the validity and authenticity of the original document for audit purposes. School districts around the state are incurring thousands of dollars of costs to store and warehouse all these district records. When the current requirements to store documents were put in place, there was no method or standard to create electronic copies of records for school districts within a trusted system that could demonstrate security, accuracy, and validity of those documents. Now that the technology is available, as well as the standards to govern what method of technology and storage should be used, this bill can provide a substantial cost savings to school districts that opt to store their documents electronically. This bill is sponsored by Los Angeles Unified School District, and I respectfully ask for your aye votes.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote.
Tom.
Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, no 0. Measure passes. File item 61, AB 2317. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2317 by Assemblymember Saldana, an act relating to local government.
Ms. Saldana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, with the increase in home foreclosures, we are seeing more and more properties that are not keeping up with building codes and safety standards. And AB 2317 will allow local government to attach fines to duly adjudicated nuisance cases. So if there is a violation and the owner refuses to bring a property up to code standards, the local governments will have the option of attaching a lien or an assessment to the property. We're seeing in many neighborhoods where people have just abandoned keeping up their swimming pools, leading to vectors which carry disease, West Nile virus, and other problems. And increasingly, local governments are having to pay the price of investigating this, sometimes dealing with the problems, and they are simply looking for a way to recover some of the money that the owners rightfully should be putting into maintaining their property. It's a common sense public safety issue. The cost is going to be borne only by those who are in violation. This bill is supported by public safety officials around the state and the American Planning Association. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Ms. Saldana moves the call. File item 62, AB 1652 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1652 with amendments by Assemblymember Jones.
Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, the amendments to this bill are taken to address opposition concerns and concerns raised by a number of my colleagues on this floor to reduce the burden of the injury reporting requirements in the legislation. I ask that the amendments be approved and that the bill be placed back on file.
Seeing and hearing no questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. File items 63, 64, and 65 pass and retain. File item 66, AB 1942. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1942 by Assemblymember Fletcher, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Since September 2000, California has not had a single day without a traffic fatality. Each year, over 450,000 traffic collisions are reported, resulting in over 3,000 fatalities. AB 1942 removes barriers that stop citizens from placing video event recorders on their windshields. This allows them to utilize a technology which has been shown to drastically reduce high-risk driving behaviors and accidents. Would respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 49, no 0. Measure passes. File item 67 through 70 pass and retain. File item 71, AB 2785 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2785 by the Assembly Committee on Veterans, an act relating to veterans.
Mr. Cook on the amendments. We will pass temporarily. File items 72 through 77 pass and retain. File item 78, AB 2767 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2767 by the Assembly Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to civil law.
Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, this is the Judiciary Committee's Civil Omnibus Bill. It was amended last week. The item is an uncontroversial measure. It's enjoyed unanimous support in each of its committee hearings. I urge an aye vote. No, we did the amendments last week.
Heads will roll.
My file is not correct, and this is not on the amendments. This is on the bill.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Measure passes. Members, we're going to go back to file item 71, AB 2785 on the bill. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2785 by the Assembly Committee on Veterans, an act relating to veterans.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. AB 2785 requires the Secretary of Veterans Affairs by June 30th, 2011, and annually thereafter to identify other state agencies that provide services to veterans for the purpose of entering into formal agreements specifying the respective roles of those agencies. According to the findings of an October 2009 audit of the California Department of Veterans Affairs, the department provides few direct services to veterans outside of its veterans' homes and CalVet Home Loan Program. The department has limited interaction and few formal agreements with other state agencies and other departments that could provide additional services to veterans if done in a more coordinated and efficient manner. California is home to the largest number of veterans, approximately 2.1 million. We need to know what programs are servicing the veterans' needs. The California Department of Veterans Affairs works with other state agencies to provide various services to our veterans, and this bill would ensure that those working arrangements are memorialized so we know exactly what services are being provided and how effective they work. In other words, the purposes of this bill is to make sure that we have communication between all the agencies to make sure that we're on the same sheet of music and take care of our veterans. The bill will help the state become a better steward of the scarce state funds that are available to help our veterans, particularly those that are having difficulty reintegrating into civilian life. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Measure passes. Going back to file items 79 through 85, pass and retain. File item 86, AB 2336 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2336 with amendments by Assemblymember Fuller.
Ms. Fuller.
Madam Speaker and members, AB 2336 passed out of the Assembly Water Parks and Wildlife Committee with bipartisan support. The intent of the bill is to have the Delta Stewardship Council and the Delta Independent Science Board assess the impact of the stressors on the Delta. Today's amendment is a technical clarification to ensure that the impacts of predation and water quality impairment are assessed in addition to the impacts of the state and federal pumping facilities, which is the intent of the amendments agreed to in committee. Committee staff and sponsors of the bill have agreed to the amendments. I ask for an aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. Members, if we could turn our attention to the rear of the chamber. And on behalf of Speaker Perez, we would like to recognize the Salvadorian American Leadership and Education Fund, Carlota Marino, Jennifer Lopez, Jairo Gerrido, Sergio Oliva, Carlos Vacarano, Jose Hernandez, and Emmanuel Plaitis. Welcome to our chambers. File items 87 through 91, pass and retain. File item 92, AB 2021, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2021 by Assemblymember Fletcher, an act relating to fire protection.
Mr. Fletcher.
AB 2021 puts in statute a 16-year-old memorandum of understanding between the University of California and the Office of the State Fire Marshal. This bill gives the State Fire Marshal the ability to delegate his or her authority to a designated campus fire marshal, similar to what's given to cities and counties. The acting State Fire Marshal feels this measure is necessary to address statutorily. I'd respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 53, no 0. The measure passes. File item 93, AB 2167, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2167 by Assemblymember Nava, an act relating to clinical social workers.
Mr. Nava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. California is the only state in the nation that does not qualify our licensed clinical social workers for a federal loan repayment program. This program will pay up to $50,000 in loan repayments, including tuition and housing costs, while they obtain their master's degree. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 51, no 0. Measure passes. File item 94 through 98, pass and retain. File item 99, AB 2181, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2181 by Assemblymember Hagman, an act relating to public contracts.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 2181 will enable certain state departments, such as Water Resources, Transportation, Boating and Waterways, Military Department, CDCR, and General Services, to conduct necessary repairs and construction works budgeted as minor capital outlay projects. Specifically, AB 2181 will increase the current limit on minor capital outlay projects from $400,000 to $600,000. The current limit has been set in place since 2001, has not been adjusted since. However, the price of construction materials have risen, driving up the cost of these projects. AB 2181 does not allocate additional funds or increase the budgets of the state departments covered under this measure. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 100, AB 2443. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2443 by Assemblymember Emmanuel Perez, an act relating to state government.
Mr. Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 2443 simply closes the communication loop between the administration and the legislature on international trade issues. Existing law requires the administration to provide the legislature with information it receives from the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. This bill requires the administration to provide the legislature with copies of its official correspondence with the U.S. Trade Representative. The analysis states that there are minor absorbable costs implementing this bill. Following the last set of amendments, the Cal Chamber removed their opposition. There is no known opposition to this bill. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Mr. Perez moves the call. File item 101 through 104, pass and retain. File item 105, pass and retain. File item 106 through 108, pass and retain. File item 109, AB 2412, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2412 by Assemblymember Tran, an act relating to Ronald Reagan Day.
Mr. Tran.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, members. AB 2412 is a very simple bill that establishes Ronald Reagan Day on February 6th of each year. The bill encourages schools and educational institutions to take appropriate steps to educate and celebrate Reagan's contributions to our communities, our state, and our nation on February 6th. This bill simply adds one additional day to the existing 4 days of celebration in current law. AB 2412 will promote greater knowledge and understanding of the contributions that Ronald Reagan made to our nation and most significantly to our California communities. On June 2nd of 2009, President Barack Obama signed the Ronald Reagan Centennial Commission Act to honor the 100th anniversary of the birth of Ronald Reagan. This bill passed the House of Representatives with bipartisan support and passed the Senate on unanimous consent. The Commission will plan activities, events, and educational opportunities to honor former Governor and former President Reagan. It is fitting that we follow in the steps of our nation's leaders and establish Ronald Reagan Day here in California to continue to honor our 40th President and also former Governor here in California who contributed so extensively to our community, state, nation, and the world. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 54, noes 0. Measure passes. File item 110, pass and retain. File item 111, AB 1748. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1748 by Assemblymember Hill, an act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1748 has unanimous support and no opposition. This is a district bill that would allow San Mateo County Community College District to sell alcohol at special events such as weddings. The College of San Mateo recently built a new dining facility that can be used for special events. However, current law prohibits the possession, consumption, and sale of alcoholic beverages at community colleges. Existing law provides various exceptions to this general prohibition, and numerous legislative exceptions have been granted to school districts to serve alcohol with certain limitations. Last year, the governor signed AB 1448 by Assemblymember Tom Berryhill, which created a similar exemption for Stanislaus County. Passed here unanimously, and I want to keep that record in place today. This bill simply grants the same authority given to other school districts in the state to allow for the College of San Mateo to utilize its new facility for special events. I respectfully ask for your aye vote, members.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, no 0. Measure passes. File item 112, pass and retain. File item 113, AB 2664. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2664 by Assemblymember Chesbro, an act relating to public lands.
Mr. Chesbro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The State Lands Commission often has to enter into costly litigation to combat persons or entities building structures on state lands without the proper permits or out of compliance with those permits. The Commission's only form of recourse under current law is to sue the perpetrator. Many of these structures actually impede the public's access to state lands. Examples include building fences into lakes and even across state parks. This bill would allow the State Lands Commission to charge administrative penalties similar to other states such as New York, Oregon, Texas, and Washington. The penalty is to be no more than $1,000 a day or no more than 60% of the fair market rent for the land for each day a permit is violated. There are safeguards built into the bill to allow for a hearing within 30 days of printed notice and a 6-month amnesty period to allow the perpetrators to negotiate a lease without being penalized. The bill passed out of Natural Resources, Judiciary, and Appropriations with no votes. The bill sponsored by the State Lands Commission. I would urge your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0. Measure passes. File item, Mr. Fuhrer, for what purpose do you rise?
Madam Speaker, thank you. I rise to request unanimous consent to waive the file notice requirements to allow the Judiciary Committee to hold an oversight hearing tomorrow morning on judicial elections at 9:30 in room 127.
Without objection. Under motions and resolutions, without objection?
Yes.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
File item 114, AB 2582. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2582 by Assemblymember Adams, an act relating to criminal procedure.
Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 2582 is a good bill that has received no votes. I urge your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, no 0. Measure passes. File items 115 and 116 pass and retain. File item 117, H.R. 29. Clerk will read.
House Resolution 29 by Assemblymember Garrick relative to Motorcycle Awareness Month.
Mr. Garrick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise today to present House Resolution 29, proclaiming May of 2010 this year to be a Motorcycle Awareness Month. Thank you for the background noise in California. Motorcycle riding is a very popular sport. It combines both the excitement of being outside along with the efficiency of transportation and a little recreation for more than 1 million California citizens. Motorcycles provide a means of transportation that uses fewer resources than other forms of transportation, such as vehicles, buses, and trucks, and also causes less wear and tear on public highways and increases available parking spots. It's important that drivers of all vehicles be aware of one another and practice courtesy. It is critical that Californians be aware of motorcycles on the streets and highways and recognize the importance of motorcycle safety. H.R. 29 honors motorcyclists' many contributions to the communities in which they live and promotes the importance of sharing the road with everyone. I ask for your aye vote, proclaiming May 2010 as Motorcycle Awareness Month. And Madam Speaker, I'd also ask the first vote be open to co-authors, please.
Thank you. Mr. Garrick is asking for the first roll to be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors, members. Co-authors. Clerk will note that there are 51 co-authors. Seeing no further questions or debate, we can take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. Members, we're going to go back to motions and resolutions. At the request of the author, please remove file item 14, AB 2510 Fletcher, from the consent calendar. Without objection. And we'd also like to request unanimous consent to re-refer file item 55, ACA 21 Calderon, to the Rules Committee pursuant to Assembly Rule. Okay, we will take that up at a further time. Okay, members, we're going to Senate third reading. File items 118 and 19-120, pass and retain. File item 121, SJR 18. Clerk will read.
Senate Joint Resolution 18 by Senator Simidian relative to marine aquaculture.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Marine aquaculture has great promise to help meet the growing consumer demand for seafood. However, if it's done improperly, it also could place great strains on the marine environment. And so it's important that as we move forward with marine aquaculture, we do so within a protective policy framework like the one that we put in place here in California 4 years ago with the Sustainable Oceans Act. This resolution calls on Congress to develop a similar comprehensive regulatory framework for aquaculture in federal waters that is at least as protective of our marine environment as what we have here in California. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Would you like co-authors, Mr. Huffman?
I'd be happy to have co-authors on the first roll.
Mr. Huffman is asking for the first roll to be open to co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. Co-authors, members. Clerk will note that there are 38 co-authors. We need a roll call item on this vote. Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Mr. Huffman moves the call. File item 122, SCR 91. On the amendments, clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 91 with amendments by Assemblymember Chesbro.
Mr. Chesbro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SCR 91 will proclaim Autism Awareness Month. These technical amendments before us today address the concerns raised by the Assembly Republican Caucus. I respectfully urge your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. File item 122, SCR 96. Clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 96 by Senator Correa relative to California Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Mr. Swanson.
Madam Speaker, SCR 96 designates May 7th, 2010 as California Police Officers Memorial Day and urges all Californians to use the day to honor California's peace officers. Every year, peace officers from around the state come to Sacramento to pay tribute to their brave colleagues who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. This year, SCR 96 formally recognizes 6 peace officers who were killed in 2009 while defending our community, including 4 officers from Oakland Police Department, 1 deputy sheriff sergeant from Tulare County Sheriff Department, and 1 sergeant from Modesto Police Department. SCR 96 also recognizes 4 officers who were killed in the line of duty in previous years, but not yet enrolled in the memorial. The names of all officers honored this year are listed in the resolution. This resolution recognizes the peace officers provide all Californians with the opportunity to appreciate the role that our historic men and women who have dedicated their lives to preserving public safety. Madam Speaker, could I have a little order?
Some attention, members, please.
This year alone, 4 peace officers have lost their lives in the line of duty. Though this resolution does not formally recognize the sacrifice of those officers yet, we pay tribute to all of these fallen heroes with this resolution on the floor today, as we have in past years. I asked all you to join Senator Carrera, the author of this resolution, and the co-authors in both houses in honoring these officers by supporting SCR 96, and I ask that the first roll be open for co-authors. Madam Speaker.
Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, I commend Assemblyman Swanson for bringing this to our attention. Last week, we had the Peace Officers Memorial here across the street. throughout this time of year, there are peace officers memorials around the state acknowledging those fallen officers, and including now some that date back to the 1890s that have not been so recognized. It is entirely appropriate to recognize these fallen officers, but ladies and gentlemen, my purpose in rising is to encourage you to look with caution and great discernment when you vote on bills related to parole and sentencing policies in California. By long experience, this legislative body has passed bills in the past that have helped result in officers being on that memorial. The Department of Corrections has often done parole policies that have resulted in officers being on that memorial. We must be very careful whenever we deliberate, debate, and vote on sentencing and parole policy bills.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Swanson asks the first roll to be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors, members. Co-authors. Clerk will note that there are 59 co-authors. Seeing no further questions or debate, we could take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. File item 125, SCR 87. Clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 87 by Senator Price and others relative to American Stroke Month.
Ms. Carter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 87, authored by Senator Price. SCR 87 declares the month of May 2010 to be American Stroke Month in California. Strokes are the leading cause of serious long-term disability and the third leading cause of death in the United States. Each year, strokes kill over 137,000 people nationwide and nearly 16,000 people in California alone. As part of this year's effort to raise awareness, the American Heart Association is working on a program called Power to End Stroke. The goal is to reduce strokes in African Americans by empowering them to reduce their risk, recognize the warning signs, and respond quickly. Members, many of us have been touched personally by this deadly and debilitating disease. I ask you to join me in supporting SCR 87 and helping to raise awareness in our communities. With that, I ask for the first roll to be open as co-authors. Ask for your support.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Ms. Carter is asking for the first roll to be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors, members. Co-authors. The clerk will note there are 57 co-authors. We can take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. File item 126, SB 408. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 408 by Senator Padilla, an act relating to body armor and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. V. Manuel Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise to gather your support for SB 408, an important public safety measure. Since 1998, California law has prohibited any person convicted of a violent felony from purchasing, owning, or possessing body armor. Over the years, there have been problems in the courts with the definition of body armor. In my district, the DAs of Imperial and Riverside counties have had difficulty convicting felons for body armor possession and have had to deal with appeals and the prolonging of court cases. In December of 2009, the 2nd District Court of Appeals overturned the state law because the definition of body armor was determined to be unconstitutionally vague. While the courts have put the law back on the books due to appeal, it is clear that there is need to clarify the law. SB 408 addresses the decision of the court by clarifying the definition of body armor. To understand the importance of this bill, we need only think back to the North Hollywood attempted bank robbery. In 1997, 2 bank robbers protected by body armor engaged with 350 officers in an hour-long gun battle. Tragically, 11 police officers and 6 civilians were wounded. The border region of my district deals with illicit drug and gun trafficking. It is critical to public safety that we not aid felons' ability to commit these crimes by allowing them to use body armor. SB 408 will protect law enforcement officials and the public from violent felons who intend to use body armor as a tool to commit further crimes. This bill has no opposition and has received unanimous support in Assembly Committee. I ask you for your aye vote.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise to support this measure. I want to thank the Senator for bringing this out. It is a great public safety measure. We need to protect not only our residents, but our law enforcement out in the field. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further, Mr. Swanson.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support. Very important bill. Thank the author for his authorship.
Seeing no further questions or debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 61, no 0. The measure passes. On the urgency, aye 61, no 0. Are there any members who would like to take up their bill that is not scheduled to be taken up? Is any member ready to take up their bill? Okay, seeing none, we're going to the consent calendar. We are at the second day consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the second day consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2408 by Assemblymember Smythe, an act relating to state government information technology.
Clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 63, no 0. The consent calendar is adopted.
And Assembly Bill 1856.
Aye 63, no 0. This concludes the business on the daily file in the regular session. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. The session schedule is as follows. Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry. Tuesday, May 18th, check-in session. Wednesday, May 19th, check-in session. Thursday, May 20th, floor session at 9 a.m. Members, sorry, there are 3 items on call. Okay, members, we are going to lift the call. We have 3 bills on call. File item 61, AB 2317, clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 21. Measure passes. File item 100, AB 2443. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 20. Measure passes. File item 121, SJR 18. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 44, noes 21. Measure passes. There are no adjourned memories today. I am ready to entertain a motion. Mr. Calderon moves. Mr. Garrick seconds that this House stands adjourned until Thursday, May 20th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.